Let's start with extended profiles, which is what I like to call your easy button for your data quality management. Basically performing all the due diligence that you need to make sure your data is clean and it's valid, doesn't have any garbage, and it's complete before you actually start your analysis. So here, I've got PCAR transaction data for our previous fiscal year. And I'm interested at looking at potential, transactions that might have happened over the weekend, because we shouldn't have that happening with our agencies. But before I do that, I want to ensure that my data is of good quality. And all I really need to do is push my profile button here. And Arbutus Analyzer just basically does all the heavy lifting for me. So let's say in mind, I have three key fields, which is my agency code, my transaction amounts, and my transaction date. And I can quickly get a dashboard representation of each field. Kind of gives me a high level view, here for my agency code character field, kind of showing me my common values. One thing that's great for me to check quickly is that there's only one format. So I can see that there's consistency across all the entries in this field. Looking at lowest and highest entries, if I switch my view to my transaction amount, which is a numeric field, looking at some of the common values, lowest and highest values, and out-of-box stratification, grouping my data into some out-of-box buckets and giving me a view of that. Looking at my transaction date, so date field, looking at days of week, days of month, days of year, looking at the distribution across the months. So again, some high level view. Now it's great. I can already see there's some entries for weekends. So I know there's information I could dig into. I can adjust any of these graphs according to my preferences. Here, our graph gives me a better view of what stands out. And these are all dynamic. So I can just very quickly click on any of these visualizations. Analyzer applies the dynamic filters, kind of narrows my view to the data that I'm interested in, and I can take it from there. And the same ability exists for logical fields as well, if you have any within your data. So really giving me this interactive interface and allowing me to quickly kind of get a feel for specific fields within my table. Now, what extended profiles also does that I find is really powerful is that it gives me access to up to 60 different attributes across all my fields, categorized into 6 categories. Those categories are verification, statistics, distribution, date time, outliers, and formats. Now, what I also have is a quick view to choose. Do I want to work with all of my fields here? Do I want to work with, let's say, specific type of fields? Or do I want to narrow my view down to what really matters to me? In our case, agency code, transaction amount, and transaction date are the key fields that I want to make sure contain good data. So you'll notice under verification, I can quickly see that all the entries seem to be valid. There's 0 invalid entries. I can scroll down here under statistics. Specifically, if I look at my transaction data and my transaction date, interesting information here. This smallest entered value for a transaction is -6,000. That could pique interest. The maximum amount for a transaction is 53,000. That could definitely pique interest, if you will. Looking down here, I can see that I have 520 negative entries totaling for over 153,000. Definitely something of interest. Making sure that my data in my transaction dates is for that fiscal year that I'm interested in. As I scroll down, I have access to data distribution across the different field types. I love it here because I can already see in my transaction date, there's over 1,000 entries for the weekends. Definitely something I can dig into. And looking my outliers under formats, as we mentioned before, making sure there's one unique format and things are consistent. So all this data at my fingertips just produced for me, so I can go ahead and dig in. Now, what else is great here is that the blue links here are interactive. So if I click on it, again, it applies that filter for me, narrows my view down to the specific type of data. I can actually dig in here if I want to. Vice versa, all the green entries, what they do for me is as I click on them, I drill through to further investigation. Again, I can adjust this according to what makes more sense to me. Down here, I can actually see the volume of transactions, and I can see that I have 780 that have happened on a Saturday. So again, I can click, I can get my filter applied, and I can take my investigation from there if I want to. So as you can see, very powerful, allowing me to validate my data, allowing me to even kick off an investigation if I'm interested in. And I can do it all through this smart and visual and an interactive interface.